Jimi Hendrix along the Watchtower is played, comes up. And also underneath that, we get layering of cacophony of other street sounds coming, taxi cabs, people blowing their horn, people shouting in apartments, people squabbling, cats screeching, whatever, but that's all underneath where you can hear it, but it's not taking any focus. Now, as the song Along the Watchtower plays, I enter from stage right. You really can't see me, but I'm just kind of standing there. And as Along the Watchtower plays, there's a slow fade up on center where the riser is. That's the only light that's there, slow fade up as the song comes in. And the other sounds start coming in after the first two lines of the song. And that's when I come and I cross. And then the light slowly comes up on me as I'm crossing downstage. My character is very disheveled, scaring a liquor bottle. He's got a cigarette going. And he's just kind of staggering. He's searching, he's looking. And then he sees the stoop. Street sounds coming up underneath it. Light slowly coming up as I'm crossing in. The sound is building through all this. Music slowly fades out. He stops and looks. Hey, old friend. It's been a while, huh? You remember me? I knew you would. I know, I'm sorry. You're right, I know that I've neglected you. How the hell are you? Are you looking good? A sight for sore eyes. Yeah, it's been a long time, my friend. Yeah, 30 years and change is a long time. Well, hey, well, would you look at that here? Unfucking believable. You see that here? After all these years, they still can't get rid of us. And I remember the day we carved our name on it. Now we knew you wouldn't mind, but thanks for saying so. No, I'm all right. It's just been so long. And seeing you here and the gang here, it's hard. Why have I come back? Christ, I don't know. I thought I did. But now that I'm here, I'm not so sure anymore. Do you mind if I sit with you for a while? I'm feeling a little tired here, and I sure could use the company. Thanks. Oh, Christ, that feels good. Take me out to the ball game, take me. What the fuck's sakes, who in the fuck are yous? What are you, perverts? What are you, spies? Is you perverted spies? You like spying on a guy when he's talking in his old neighborhood? What the fuck? Welcome to my neighborhood. They called me the professor. Like some all-knowing God, or like some fat priest who purged them of their sins. In our neighborhood, the melting pot of families and friends and degenerate fucks. In a young age, you learn very quickly down here. Some degenerate will have your ass. And I learned the bullshit there, and they were lost wherever they were. Who gives a fuck? All I know is that I'm out of there right here, because they don't here, there. It'll only give you one thing. A hemorrhoid as big as a cantaloupe. And some people might even think that's a little funny, eh? Some people might even think that's a real fucking scream, eh? Well, if that's the case, fuck you. Because then you don't know shit. Because you're probably sitting back in your lazy boy recliner, bitching about your government, the police, your neighbors, and screaming at your paper boy who can't hit your front porch with a goddamn paper. So go, get up, get off your ass, walk 2 feet and pick it up. It ain't that fucking hard here, huh? Fuck it. I'm sorry. Laugh if you feel like it. But you see, probably most of you never had a stoop. And I ain't gonna hold that against you. This is that some of us, we get tied to that stoop, and for that moment of having something we feel we can call our own, something we feel that nobody can take from us. We felt like we were somebody's, like we belonged. And the entire universe for us revolved around us to come rain, come shine. That's essentially the way it was. They called me the professor. A growing perception that I was the Aristotle of our block, of our time. But if truth be known, I became much more like Hercules. And like him, my intelligence was often conspicuously absent, prone to terrific outbursts of furious rage which would inevitably become fatal to others. One hand on Olympus and a foot in Hades, trying to outrun the Hydra, righting the wrong, wronging the right, and each time 2 more heads coming after you. And you may believe, well, I guess that doesn't matter much now, what you believe. Because down on your stoop, the man's the man, and the only person who can take that shit away is the man himself. But that's got to be done the right way. Because if someone else does it for you, you either die in a slow death, or you're riding belly up in the Hudson. And either one of those is a real bitch. So we did what we knew and how we knew. And maybe we were just a little bit like yous. They called me the professor. Shake down, bust his ass, somebody getting whacked, don't get caught, and two-card Jimmy. Getting cornered by some crazed junkie telling you he's God, and when he's high on a speedball, and you're saying, what the fuck am I doing down here? These people don't know me, and Christ, I don't even know myself half the time. There I am, trying to rationalize my existence with a moral purpose, when I know my need for acceptance can never be. Strangely enough, this place still feels like home. And now I've come back. But why? I don't know. Everything has changed for certain, old friend. I can still smell it, see it, hear it, taste it. Doesn't seem so far away anymore. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. I remember as a young boy in the early 50s going to Ebbets Field on Saturday afternoons to watch my beloved Dodgers with my father and the whole Stoop gang. And my father, who God bless his soul, had the moonlight evenings and every second weekend. You see, he would do gardening for rich people. And as a kid, I thought it was the greatest job you could possibly have. Because you see, as part of his pay, he would get tickets to see the Brooklyn Dodgers. So come spring season, naturally, I had more friends than anyone in the tenements. And it wasn't until many years later that I began to notice how old my father had become, working those 80 odd hours a week, just so us kids could go to a ball game. And he never complained. Never. And he always had a dime in his pocket for a hot dog and a Coke or another kind of soda for all of us. Now we knew all the players. Now they were gods, men among men, men far beyond the everyday mortal man, and we had some of the greats. Our famous boys of summer lineup in the 50s included Duke Snyder, Roy Campanella, Pee Wee Reese, Johnny Padres, and Jackie Robinson, the first black man to ever play in the major leagues. And I was glad we had him. And the very essence of our well-being, our existence, our purpose in life, laid with those men. because our chatter and banter on the stoop those evenings following the games, it would fill the streets. It was like a godlike utopia, reaching the reverence to the heavens of our heroes' conquests. And much worse for their defeats. Now, when Brooklyn lost the Dodgers in 1958, the world lost an age of innocence. And you might think that's taking things a bit too far here. But you see, for us, we were all Dodgers. It was in our hearts and our souls. And being a Brooklyn Dodger was the most important thing that anyone could ever aspire to be. And only the chosen few ever made it. When the Dodgers left Brooklyn, my childhood love for baseball went on purgatory. And it seemed that our world had been raped of everything good and pure. So the stoop for us then became more than ever a place to hold on to our dreams. The stoop, information central. All our action either began here or ended here. Now there was 5 of us in the gang, all poor kids from immigrant families. First of all, there was Fatty Angelo. Now Fatty wasn't called that because he was fat. It was because he got laid by some fat whore at the age of 9. Oh, and it was quite a sight to behold. 200 pounds of change of white flat slapping down on some crying kid. Well, I know I should have got him out of there, but what the hell, I paid my quarter to watch. Had $1 ready for myself. But after seeing what Fatty looked like when she was done with him, oh, I knew that was more woman than I could ever handle. I mean, hey, I was only 10 years old, for Christ's sakes. Next came Frankie the Fish. Now, the Fish, he come by his name a little more honestly. You see, his old man worked in the market, cutting fish, 14 hours a day. And naturally, they were forever eating fish. They ate so much fish that they began to smell like fish. I mean, I don't know about you, but the last thing any of us ever wanted to do was to be in some small, cramped space with the fish on a hot summer's day and him smelling like a dead mackerel past its prime. I mean, he smelled so much like fish that cats would follow him down the street. And there was Jimmy, the thief, an Irishman. Now, the thief was like watching poetry in motion. A veritable Picasso of the pickpocket. Now, one of Jimmy's favorite plays was The Hook and Line, and if you're not too familiar with that, let me explain it to you. The thief had an 8-inch steel hook that was as sharp as a razor on one end, and on the other end was tied about 100 feet of rope. Now, we would be up on the rooftop, holding the rope. And when the thief had picked out his prey, he would run up behind them and plunge that hook into their wallet, and we'd start lining up, hauling up that line as quick as we could. And sometimes we took their wallet, the ass of their pants, and sometimes a little fork and meat with it. Oh, it was beautiful. And the prey's first reaction, after they screamed,
would be to grab their ass, look at Jimmy, and then the wallet, which was by now 20 feet in the air above them, and going. They didn't know what the fuck to run after first, Jimmy or the wallet. Then we had Sammy the Pig. Now originally, Sammy wasn't part of our gang. It's because he was a Jew. Now there's nothing wrong in being Jewish, but in our neighborhood, being a Jew was almost as bad as being black. Well, till Jackie Robinson came around, and besides, now that I think about it, I don't think anybody who was black would have been stupid enough to join our gang. So, Sammy the Jew was on the outs. Now one day the Kelly gang, they come into our neighborhood, our turf, looking to kick Jimmy the T's ass. And they got a hold of him, and he got beat pretty bad. You see, them being mixed didn't figure he should be hanging out with anybody else but his own kind. But then Sammy, he came out of nowhere with an ice pick. And he shanked Kelly and one of his guys, and they fucked off. And he saved the T's ass. From that time on, he became known as Sammy the Pick, my best friend. Now, he was a stand-up guy if there ever was one. And then finally it was me. I was the professor. Now, personally, I always hated that nickname. Too much to lose by it. And besides, Casey Stengel, manager of the Yankees, was called the Old Professor. And God knows I'd never cheer for anything but a Dodger. And my father, he never had more than a 6th grade education. So for him, there was never anything else but to bust his balls for some rich fuck. But he always made sure his family never went hungry, had clothes, a warm bed to sleep in. But my father always wanted something more for me, though. So he made me read a lot. And I remember early on almost hating for it because, you see, I would rather play in stickball or running with the gang, and the gang would tease me unmercifully, as kids could do, and then inevitably that would lead to a fight. But my father kept telling me that if I didn't read and learn, that I'd stay down here for the rest of my life, never amount to nothing. Working for next to nothing for somebody else so that they could send their kids to some fancy private school. And so with encouragement like that, and being my father was much larger than I read. And I was the only one in the gang who could. So here I was, getting a dual education, one from the classics and one from the street. A potentially lethal combination if the latter gets to the better part of the other. And so reluctantly, I became the professor. So there we were, 5 kids from Brooklyn, 2 wops, a Jew, a Mick, and me, Heinz 57. An unlikely combination of a game. But we were friends through thick and thin. And it didn't matter to us that our parents had come from different parts of the world with all of their religious differences or otherwise. Because back then we would have died for each other. We laughed together. We fucked together. And then some of us died together. When does a child lose their innocence? For some, it seems like it just gradually slips away. Life doesn't throw them too many curves. But along the way, it just disappears. Somewhere. And a small few manage to never lose it. You can see it in their eyes, that wonderment of viewing everything like a child for the first time, even when they've seen it every day. And then some. Some get it torn from them. Sometimes just a piece at a time. And then other times it just rips great big fucking chunks of flesh out of you. That'll leave you staggering in the streets. Some days it'll leave you breathless. Oh, Jesus Christ, I can't fucking breathe yet. I was just a fucking kid, okay? For Christ's sakes, I didn't ask for this shit. All I wanted to do was play some stickball. And I ain't asking for anyone's pity yet. You just call a spade, and if the rules are gonna change, at least give me enough time to read the fucking rules! Because I can fucking read now, huh? Now some years, I can tell you ain't from around here. Because you don't smell right. You just don't smell right. I can tell you now, this ain't what it used to be. Nowadays, some crazy junkie will shoot your ass for a goddamn cigarette. But when I was a kid for a while, it seemed like the best place on earth. And I'm sure if any of us would have had a chance to talk with God, he would have been a Dodger fan. There's no doubt. He'd even be in the Dodger uniform and getting ready for a game of ball. Yeah, stickball. The game of all street games. And I'm sure that the national sport in heaven must be baseball. Oh, I can just see it now. It's a bright sunny day. The forecast is looking real good. Temperatures are hovering in the low 80s. And there's only a 10% chance of precipitation. And the winds are blowing in directly from center field to home plate at 10 to 15 miles an hour. A pitcher's paradise. Angels with pom-poms. The disciples are hawking franks and sodas. And there's a guy up in the fourth row with a sign saying John 3:16. Pontius Pilate's behind the plate. It's the seventh and deciding game of the Heavenly Series, bottom of the ninth, bases loaded, 2 out, and the crowd is building to a frenzy, almost reaching orgasmic proportions. As their hero emerges from the dugout, that crowd is going fucking crazy. And the angels with pom-poms, they start singing, Jesus, Jesus, he's our man. If he can't do it, no one can. And the crowd roars their approval as Jesus glides to the plate. He takes one mighty swing just for practice. And just then, the manager of the opposing team, who just happens to be God, calls for time. God signals to the bullpen and brings in his ace reliever. Now the crowd, they go strangely silent, and as the reliever makes his way to the mound, a chorus of boos filled the sky. And Jesus, he's by now looking a little worse for wear here. But the crowd cheers him on, and he steps back up to the plate, and they roar as he prepares himself for the confrontation. In the picture, he gives Jesus his best ices there. He rears back and then stops himself. Steps off the mound. You see a change come over him as he steps back onto the mound. Now the catcher, he gives him a sign. He shakes it off. He gives him another sign. He shakes it off. He gives him a third sign. And he nods. Judas gives Jesus a hard, fast one in the side of the head, smacking Christ and dropping him like a sack of potatoes. The crowd gasps. A bench-clearing brawl ensues. I mean, the disciples are fighting in the stands. Cheerleaders and angels, and it was a mess. And Judas was tossed from the game by Pontius Pilate for unsportsmanlike conduct. And the crowd waits with bated breath, and a huge cheer erupts for Jesus as he rises. And he turns and he looks at God and he says, "Why me?" I don't know about you, but I think you should have learned to play that. Stickball, the game of all street games, and I could play it for hours. And my father would have to practically drag me off the streets. The year was 1951. And our beloved Dodgers and the Giants had both finished the season with identical records of 96 and 58. They now had to play a best of a 3-game playoff, with the winner advancing to play the Yankees for the World Series. Now the Subway playoff, as it was called back then, began at Ebbets Field, with our Dodgers losing 3-1. Game 2 came back to our home, the Polo Ground. And we won 10-0. And as usual, we would always celebrate our team's victory with a game of stickball. The World Championship of Stickball happened right on our street every time our guys beat the Giants. And it began as such a wonderful day. The kind of day that made you proud to be from Brooklyn. Proud to be alive, and most of all, proud to be a Dodger. And it was nearing supper time, and our gang was in tough. We were down by a couple of runs, and time was running out on the game. And Sammy, he's up to bat. Now, Sammy wasn't that big. Boy, he was the best goddamn clutch hitter the game of stickball had ever seen. And he'd saved our ass on a number of occasions. Come on, Sammy, stroke that ball. And he looked over at me with that great, big, beautiful smile of his. He winked, notched his cap, and stepped up to the plate. Come on, Sammy, you're the man. A little stroke, that's all we need, baby. And the pitch came. And Sammy took a mighty swing, and he launched a rocket. Bang! It was right down the middle of the street. Oh, it was beautiful. Moment to remember. And we were all screaming and cheering for Sammy while he was running. Sammy, Sammy, he's our man. If he can't do it, no one can. And I noticed it first. This car coming around the corner, and I can't remember if it was going fast or slow. Then it was just like everything was going in slow motion. And I see this gun come out of the window of the car. And I started yelling at Sammy, run, Sammy, run. And he's thinking all the time that I'm just cheering him on, and he's fucking laughing. Get out of there, it's like Kelly's run. Oh God, that fucking car's almost on him. Jesus Christ, look at the fucking car, Sammy. Look at the fucking car. I can't breathe. Here. Sammy. And that car, he pulled up next to him. He turned his head towards the car, laughing all the time. And the look in his eyes before they pulled the trigger was as if he was saying, why me? And when the shot came, I was only about 5 feet away. And the bullet, it ended in under his left cheekbone and the right side of his face. It just came off. And all of those pieces of his brain and bone and blood and all that shit hit me square in the face. And I see Sammy falling, hitting the ground. And I turned to look at the guard, and the guy fired at me. But his gun jammed. He just kept pulling the trigger, but he wouldn't fire. But he just kept fucking laughing. Just laughing at me. That neck fuck just killed my best friend, and he's fucking laughing. And I staggered. I went down, falling forward, and I landed right on top of Sammy. And I tried to get up, but I slipped in the blood, falling on Sammy. And I took him in my arms. I said, Sammy, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay, Sammy. You'll be all right. And I don't remember if I was crying at the time. But tomorrow was going to be my birthday. And I was going to be 12. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. So when does a child lose his innocence? I don't know. But that day, all I know is that day the world lost Sammy Goldberg. And God gave the best damn clutch hitter the game of stickball I'd ever seen. The next few weeks after that were pretty hard. In our gang, we didn't hang around the stoop much anymore, and stickball, it wasn't the same. But slowly we started to pick up the pieces of our lives and carry on. And the Dodgers were having a great season, and that seemed to help a lot. And as usual in our neighborhood, the cops never caught the guys that killed Sam. I did. 4 years later. Was it fate that 4 years later, on the anniversary of Sammy's death, that we see the guy who killed him and wanted to kill me? That laughing fucking mid-court sucker. That other son of a bitch who got his kicks from killing kids. And I remember that day with such clarity. It was Game 3, 1955 World Series. Between the Yankees and the Dodgers. Our Dodgers had lost games 1 and 2 by the respective scores of 6-5 and 4-2. But Game 3 was going back to Ebbets Field, our home. Johnny Padres was pitching a masterful game, and Roy Campanella had just hit a home run for us. And I'm watching the game as usual. In fact, he was looking to get laid, and the fish was stuffing his face with a dog, and the thief was hunting for prey. And I see Jimmy coming, running up the stairs towards me, and he's yelling to me, "He's here. That fucking Mick is here. I saw him." And we all knew who he meant. And we moved as one. We all knew what our roles were going to be that day. We were like a vicious pack of animals. And it didn't take us long to find you. It was with 4 other guys. We were outnumbered, smaller, and younger. But we could taste blood. And I was the professor, wasn't I? I knew I could outsmart these fucks. So I decided we needed to split them up. take away from their strength, see? We'd split them into two groups, Fatty and the Fish in one, and me and the Thief in the other. Now we knew Evansfield like the back of our hands, like it was our own home. We get them chasing us, jump the fence at Evansfield. It went down into a maze of hallways and rooms. Kelly would come chasing me. The other guys would spread off chasing them. Classics got left behind that day. And the beast from the street was coming out to play. Hey, Kelly, you fucking Nick cocksucker. My two walk friends love to fuck your sisters. And we got his attention. And when they saw who it was, they come running like a bunch of fucking banshees. Fuck, I was so crazy that day for blood. Felt like I had a heart. And over the fence we went, always staying just in their sight. And when we hit the first intersection of corridors, I went left, and the Fatty and the Fish went right. And I didn't know it at first, but Jimmy had fallen. And then he got up, and he started running straight. 3 of Kelly's guys went after the Fish, and Fatty and Kelly and the other guy, they went after Jimmy. Holy shit, nobody's going after me. Jesus Christ, I gotta catch up to these son of a bitches before they get Jimmy. It was my fucking day of revenge, and I wasn't gonna be denied. I could barely hear the shouting underneath the roar of the stands, but I knew I was getting closer. Oh fuck, which way did they go? Which way? Was it right, left, right? Come on, think, you Heinz 57 cocksucker. Which fucking way, you're the professor? Which fucking way? And I went right. And they had Jimmy cornered. And Kelly, he was just laughing at him. And I could see Jimmy was scared, but he didn't let on that he saw me. And I was moving in quick, and I screamed, but the cheers from above drowned me out. And the second guy, he moved in on Jimmy and his 8-inch hook, and the two of them hit the concrete real hard. And the thief came rolling up quick like, and his hook was sticking in about 4 inches into the other guy's spine. And Kelly turned to see me at the last second. And I drove that knife right through his heart so far I hit fucking bone. Now you make fuck laugh. I can't hear you laughing. Come on, just a little laugh, please. Laugh, you cocksucker, no? Oh, fuck you. And I'm breathing hard, and electricity and pain across my eyes. Saliva's running from my mouth. And Jimmy's calling me, and the sound of it's calling, it was like I was underwater. I was distant, distorted, and he's crying out. And I turned to look at Jimmy, and he was on his knees. And the blood is just pouring out of him. It's pooling and growing and pouring out of him. And he's screaming. And the sounds of his screams, he was so frightened. Holding his groin. Somehow when Jimmy went down, The other guy's knife had severed his testicles. There was nothing I could do for him. Jimmy died a minute later, but I had to go. I just had to go. I had to leave him. So I left you. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. And I don't care if I never come back. I didn't have time that day to look for Fatty and the fish. It wasn't until later on that night that I found out that Fatty had been killed as well. And the fish, well, he made it out of there like me. Now there's only two of us left. He called me Professor. What a fucking joke. The child had become a man, and the man had become a killer all in one day. One day shy of his 16th birthday. And if you had asked me to write a script for my life, sure as hell wouldn't have been that one. But that's the course it took. And I can't rationalize it. There's no logic to it except for maybe the law of the street. I had survived, tasted blood, and for an instant, I felt redemption. But I had become everything and nothing. Could there be salvation somewhere for me? I still don't know. Possibly for that child that got lost all those years ago, but for the boy who became an animal today. And does anyone have the strength to truly forgive? I can't ask for forgiveness, so I can't accept it. I feel like a whore, except I sold my soul. And I still can't say I'm sorry. Because there's a part of me somewhere inside that feels that justice was served that day. Hey, God, did I love too hard? Or did I hate too much? Why is God so silent? So silent when we get hurt so much. And the pain that children have to go through with the only choice but to endure it. I prayed for his help. I prayed for your help. But you never came. You never came. Silent. Silent. You never once came. By the way, the Dodgers went on that day to win 8-3, and eventually took the series 4 games to 3. It was the final deciding game, being 2-0. And the Flatbush fans of Brooklyn had their first World Series in 65 years. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? I haven't done this for a long time. And I'm feeling a little rusty here. Would any of you like to play a game of stickball? So.
It's awesome, Dean.
That was great, Dad.
Yeah.
I think you nailed the accent.
It's tough. I was off a little bit because my throat's so raw, my tongue was getting sicky. But I'm having to deal with a false palate. So when you're doing accents,